Hello Ratbags, it's Jade Plays Games. Welcome to a very special video today, taking a look at Conan Exiles versus Ark Survival Evolved. Which one of these two giant survival hardcore games is the winner? Which one is the best one to play? If you've never played a survival game, which one should you go for? And if you have played both of them, which one is ultimately the better one? Now, of course, this is all objective and it's all based on just my opinion. I've covered Ark Survival Evolved for 2.5 years since it debuted on Xbox One, throughout the PS4 launch and PC. I've also covered Conan Exiles since it came out on the PC 15 months ago too. I've done so many videos on Ark Survival Evolved, but I have done a hell of a lot of content on Conan Exiles with update videos, news and update information showing you brand new gameplay as it was in early access. So, I think I'm more than equipped to give you the total rundown on what one is better game. We're going to be breaking it down into some sections. We're going to be talking about their impact and their launch. We're going to be talking about multiplayer, and then that's going to be broken down into player versus environment and player versus people. We're also going to be talking about the end game and the grind. We're going to be talking about single player. We're going to be taking about looks and sounds, and we're also taking a good objective look at gameplay and the feeling. And then we'll be finishing off with how the outside world perceives these games and what is their impact going forward. So let's properly start this clash of dinosaurs and swords. Ark Survival Evolved, developed by Wildcard Studios, came out of nowhere. The development team had never really made a game on their own. They'd all worked on previous companies and this was their first real venture together. Jumping on the hype train that was Jurassic World, it absolutely flew out the gates and had over 1 million downloads within the first few months. Initially releasing on PC in June 2015, it wasn't until December 2015 that it came to Xbox One. This is where I got really excited and hyped about this game. I'd never seen an open world survival game like this on console. I'd come from Xbox 360 days, longing for something like this, longing for something that was more mature than Minecraft. And Ark Survival Evolved delivered. PlayStation 4 fans had to wait a little bit longer to experience the hardcore nature of Ark. They had to wait almost a year. But when it did come out on PlayStation 4, it was even more popular than it was on Xbox One. The hype generated by seeing loads of people play this game on PC and Xbox meant the PlayStation fanboys were rabid and wanted to get this game. In a short space of time, over 2 million copies of Ark Survival Evolved on PlayStation 4 sold. It catapulted my channel way and above what it was before. Yet it was still in early access. The full release wouldn't come until 2017 in September. That was after multiple delays on all three platforms and multiple issues. Throughout that whole period of time during early access, the developers kept on pumping out content, each month getting brand new dinosaurs, features and items in the game. However, this did lead to a little bit of friction with the community because the game really was that buggy. And while some things were fixed along the way, even at full release, Ark Survival Evolved really wasn't the polished item it should have been. And that is definitely the same thing you can say about most early access games. Conan Exiles is no different though. Launching 15 months ago, 2017 in January, it had a huge, great, fantastic start. They marketed it well with the streamers and YouTubers and influencers, and for 2 or 3 weeks everything was about Conan Exiles. People really were talking about it maybe replacing Ark as the ultimate survival game. However, Conan Exiles ran out of content pretty quickly, and lots of the getting the game fixing and prioritising the bug fixes was their priority, and so that meant a massive drop in the player count. Now that would normally cripple a studio if people aren't carrying on buying that game and playing it. However, Funcom made so much money in that first month it saved their company. Funcom, the company behind Conan Exiles, had made previous online games, however none of them had been a huge massive success. The company was in danger of going under. Conan Exiles single-handedly gave them enough money to restart and revamp their company. With the money they received, they could carry on developing Conan Exiles without too much of a rush and kickstart other game development, which they're going to be doing a lot of in 2018 and 19. 15 months later, Conan Exiles finally left early access, and while they added lots of different content and a brand new biome for you to explore, the Frozen North, it definitely did not receive the same sort of content that Ark Survival Evolved did over that period of time. Now, it was a shorter gestation. Conan Exiles was developed and made in a much quicker time, and they prioritised bug fixes. So in a way, both games had what they thought was the priority. Ark Survival Evolved wanted players to get content and try and finish up any bugs and problems at the end of that content, where Conan Exiles took a decision to step away from lots of content and really focus on fixing the game. To be honest, neither of them succeeded. If you're going into a survival game for the first time, particularly with these two, don't expect it to be running super smooth. There is still massive problems with both games, and while we don't like it, it is part of these games. Open world survival games are few and far between on console, Xbox One and PS4. Just don't have the memory to compute exactly where everyone is building their bases and what they're doing. This is why we see so many of these games on PC where they have the more technological power to do it. Now the Xbox X and the PlayStation Pro have made a few advances, but really it's all just bells and whistles. There still isn't enough power compared to something like a PC game. So we accept the bugs and the crashes, we accept the issues, the glitches. So both games are far from perfect, and if you really can't stand games that have bugs and issues and need constant updates, you definitely maybe want to avoid both of these games for a little while longer. But in terms of the first score we're going to give it, for the launch, Ark Survival Evolved wins hands down. 12 million copies have been confirmed to have been sold across Xbox One, PS4 and PC. And while Conan Exiles is a very much more modest 1.5 million copies sold, they're still both really good. However, Ark had a bigger impact. More people were talking about it. The content on YouTube was everywhere, and every YouTuber going that covered these sort of games put all their effort into Ark Survival Evolved. It created a huge, fantastic community evolving around Ark Survival Evolved that helped make the game bigger than it was. Very much like Minecraft, Ark Survival Evolved became oversaturated with the amount of content creators making stuff on the game. But that hype with the Jurassic World launching and a game where you could actually go out and tame dinosaurs means that Ark Survival Evolved had the bigger impact. Moving briskly onto multiplayer, the single most important aspect of both of these games. You can play both of these games without ever having to go online, but they are designed at their core to play with other players. So when talking about multiplayer and which one's better, you have to break it down a little bit. Ark Survival Evolved offers up to 70 players on each of their servers, whether it's PvE or PvP. Conan Exiles only offers up to 40 players. You can rent private servers for both of these games on Xbox One, PS4 and PC. Both have two different types of multiplayer action. You've got PvP and PvE. Both games cover this aspect very well, and both of them kind of need still to do a lot of work. Ark Survival Evolved's multiplayer is legendary for taking away your life. If you play PvP, the threat and the thought of people raiding you constantly keeps people awake for 36 hours or more. And it's not even just the threat of raiding, it's the dino raising and the taming. It can take multiple days to tame a creature. It can take even longer to raise a creature from a baby all the way to a grown dinosaur. We'll be talking about that in more detail with the grind, but in terms of pure multiplayer, Ark Survival Evolved's PvP is probably the most hardcore going. There are other games out there like Rust that are very toxic, but when you think what can be lost in PvP when you play Ark, hundreds and hundreds of hours of taming creatures and dinosaurs because people will come and kill your creatures. That is far and above beyond anything you find in something like Rust or DayZ, where you'll just lose your items and lose your base. Conan Exiles PvP relies on much the same sort of thing as Rust and DayZ. You're obviously only going to lose your items and your base. However, it has limited time PvP. It doesn't want you to sell your soul to the game. Every region that you play it in, there are specific times where you can destroy bases. They also have available game modes where you can take on players but not ever destroy their bases. This is a huge improvement over Ark Survival Evolved's PvP life-draining game. It is not healthy to play a game for 24 hours straight. And Ark Survival Evolved have acknowledged in the past that they maybe need to have adjusted some of the timers because they didn't want players spending so much time doing these items and doing these things. Of course, you can tribe up in both of these games and that alleviates the strain, and if you've got good tribe mates, they can take some of the burden on. However, not everyone wants to play the game like that, and so if you're playing a solo PvP venture, Conan Exiles is going to be the better game for you and your health. In a way, Ark Survival Evolved relies a lot on cheesing in PvP. It's about where you place your turrets, it's about what you've got with your base builds, walls, double wall defences, everything to slow down dinosaurs and decimate them before they get to your base. It becomes a glitchy mess, and if you've ever watched any raid videos on Ark Survival Evolved, even from the biggest YouTubers, at times it looks like a stop frame start show. The frame rates go everywhere. People don't have graphics up that high so they can run and process things quicker. It is not a pretty sight to be looking at when you're watching a PvP battle. There is something epic about dinosaurs going into battle against each other, but as you'll see from lots of trailers from Ark Survival Evolved, PvP never looks like it does in them trailers. It is just walls and walls of ugly turrets. So much so that Ark Survival Evolved had to adjust the actual turret situation 6 months after release. Lots of gameplay mechanics in Ark Survival Evolved ended up actually breaking the game worse or making it unplayable. And even though it released in early access, it's still undergoing lots and lots of changes to appease the community and make the game run better. Conan Exiles doesn't escape from that. Like I said, it's still got its issues and its problems. But you definitely don't feel like you've wasted months and months of work when you've been raided in Conan. There isn't as much to lose in Conan Exiles, so maybe that's what makes it better. Or it might make it worse in your eyes. If you're a hardcore gamer and play survival games, you probably enjoy the fact that you could lose everything or you could win everything in PvP. However, it's not healthy, and I think Conan Exiles does a better job of the PvP. Here you can adjust the sizes and do whatever you pretty much want to do, and that's one fantastic aspect of these games. When comparing lag and desync, and when we're talking about issues that affect online gameplay, Ark Survival Evolved loses. With so many players to compute stuff going on, with so many dinosaurs in the game, so many things happening with bases and the open world design, frequently the online experience is plagued by lots of lag, lots of rollbacks, and just not very good stability. Now that's a general consensus. I'm sure there's lots of opportunities and lots of people out there that will say their game runs fantastically, perfectly well, probably on their higher end rig PC. However, for the bulk of people playing on console, it can be a real chore playing on online. People accept the lag, they accept the problems and issues because there's something more rewarding in grinding on an official server. Conan Exiles gets its first point. Although its server capabilities are much more limited, I think it actually suits the game as well. So for PvP, in terms of the grind, in terms of everything that you would expect from a survival game, Conan Exiles wins. So what about PvE? Well, to a much lesser extent, PvE is a much more boring affair. Ark Survival Evolved usually wins the gameplay element because it's got such an open world environment where dinosaurs are a danger everywhere. You can't go more than 100 yards without something attacking you or seeing some sort of danger nearby. The same can't be said for Conan Exiles, and playing PvE on Conan Exiles can be just a bit of a bore fest. While it has added optional features like the Purge, where it will make NPCs come and attack the biggest tribes, in its current state, Conan Exiles doesn't win the PvE battle. But they both have problems and issues. Ark Survival Evolved, once you've got all your dinosaurs, there's not much left to do. Generally speaking, when you go and take on some of the endgame bosses, you need a certain type of dinosaur like a T-Rex. And on PvE servers, all you find is just huge bases that literally house dinosaur after dinosaur after dinosaur. They'll sit there for days and people literally only log in just to feed their dinosaurs like an old-aged Tamagotchi. But it still shades it over Conan Exiles because the whole nature of the PvE environment, the grind, the gathering, the capturing the dinosaurs, that makes the game, and that's what makes the game interesting and fun. Now, Conan Exiles does have a very similar mechanic. It's called thralls and slaves, and you go out there and you capture these thralls and you bring them back to base to break them on your wheel of pain. However, it's a much easier experience to the point where it almost gets a little bit boring. So for me, if you're looking for a PvE experience with lots of things to do and to keep you interested, as long as you like taming dinosaurs, Ark Survival Evolved is going to win it. Now, throughout everything you do, whether it's single player, multiplayer, PvE, PvP, it is the grind, and that's what makes these games almost famous. Both these games are termed hardcore for a reason. It takes a considerable amount of time and effort to get to the point where you've unlocked the end game content. And I'm not talking just about gathering resources, I'm talking about the whole slog, from survivor waking up on a beach or waking up in a desert in Conan Exiles, to taking on the Overseer in Ark Survival Evolved, or finally being able to walk free of the exiled lands. Both games will take up a considerable amount of time. However, when you look at the grind, when you look at what you can do, in Ark Survival Evolved you use your dinosaurs and you utilise them a lot once you've tamed them. That whole grind process of taming them dinosaurs, making babies to get stronger dinosaurs, to then go and take on bosses, not to mention the actual grind of gathering resources, for me means Ark Survival Evolved just about wins it. I previously recorded this video before and I said Conan wins it, but on reflection, when you think about it, the only thing Conan really wins is the gathering aspect. It will take a considerable more amount of time to get every sort of single item in Conan. Mainly because there's lots of components that you need to gather or craft specifically to get better endgame or better armour. And while you can take a considerable amount of time getting yourself loads of thralls, they're not necessarily always needed to complete the endgame aspects. You can literally do the boss fights on your own. In fact, it's recommended at the moment because the thrall system just isn't quite there. Whereas Ark Survival Evolved, you need them dinosaurs to complete that endgame. You will not complete or defeat the bosses without any. Speaking of endgame as well, Ark Survival Evolved definitely has a much better laid out plan. With almost 4 bosses, not to mention all the DLCs that come with it, it will keep you busy for sure. Conan Exiles does have its own boss endgame content of course, but it really doesn't match up to what you get in Ark Survival Evolved. So you can do lots of things with both games, but ultimately, which one's more enjoyable on your own? It's a tough one to call, it really is, but I'm gonna go with Ark. Ark is a challenge. The creatures that will attack and kill you at any one point, whether it's multiplayer or not, will always be frightening. and even though you can adjust settings and make it easier or harder, it still gives you a better experience playing it on your own on Ark Survival Evolved compared to Conan Exiles. Conan Exiles doesn't have as many mobs or enemies rolling around the map, and without other players in PvP or other players that you come across in PvE even, it can get really lonely and quite frankly just a little bit boring. Ark Survival Evolved doesn't have NPCs, but the dinosaurs make the game alive. The dangers, the different types of biomes that you'll explore really enhance and make that gameplay, playing it on your own, a better experience. There's definitely good points from Conan Exiles I'd wish I'd see in Ark. They have lots of story elements where you come across ghostly apparitions and that will actually play out a little scene in front of you in Conan Exiles. Whereas Ark relies on a lot of lore just from Explorer notes. But these can seem a little bit dead and a little bit flat, and there's no real coherence to any of them. You're following the lives of different adventurers that have travelled or explored the map before you. While the Exile Lands isn't actually set in any known Conan universe, it does borrow heavily obviously on the history, the characters, the languages, everything that you'd expect from a Conan Exiles game. So fitting these features into these lore stones I think makes Conan Exiles quite an enjoyable experience if you want to find that stuff. But with not enough enemies in the game, the end game not being as satisfying, Ark Survival Evolved is going to win it. Now Conan Exiles does have one up, it's the building aspect. There's much prettier things you can do with the building, there's much more robust pieces, and the cosmetic items that you can decorate your homes with are really good in Conan Exiles. However, it doesn't lend itself just to that aspect of being great. You still need more than just being able to build pretty bases, and they're not really that useful. At the moment, the thrall system and the way that it protects against the purge isn't quite there. The purge can just be manipulated and taken out without it even going anywhere close to destroying your base. That's what the purge is meant to be, an NPC band of creatures or enemies that will spawn and attack your base after you've hit a certain marker. Both use the Unreal Engine, and the Unreal Engine makes pretty games. What Unreal Engine doesn't always do is make reliable games, particularly for open world survival. Now, looking on a potato console like the basic Xbox or the PS4, which I have both, at times both games have struggled to really match the fidelity of top end games. But then there are other moments when you look at it and you think, oh my gosh, both of these games are amazingly beautiful. Ark Survival Evolved's environmental details, the way the map, the biomes all look and sound is fantastic. The dense foliage, the grass, the different types of trees that you'll go and encounter, bushes, and some of the content that's been added to the game like free DLC, extra maps, really has shown how pretty you can make a game look. Conan Exiles suffers a little bit when it comes up against Ark. Conan Exiles has some really good models, and obviously it's famous for having the ability to adjust the size of your dong or your boobies, but take that gimmick away and Conan Exiles, no matter what device you play it on, doesn't really start outshining each other. They kind of look the same on all three. The dinosaur models in Ark are amazing in terms of the way they move, the look, the sound. I've always liked the art style and I've always felt like they were really good crafted creatures. That can't be said for Ark Survival Evolved's character creation screen though. Conan Exiles has a much better character customization, but certainly environmentally Ark Survival Evolved wins. I will tack on as well the sound. Now the sound in Conan Exiles, that opening theme tune gets me every time and I'll be humming it all goddamn lay long. But Ark Survival Evolved's music is absolutely sumptuous. It was actually hand built by Gareth Coker and the effort and time put into every part of it is fantastic. Whereas Conan Exiles after a while gets very repetitive and they've utilised previous game music. And not just the music, but talking about that environmental sounds as well. Ark has that in abundance, with the dinosaur creature noises, the ambient sound, the water rushing by. It definitely wins on the sound element as well as the looks. So we're coming up to the last two conclusions now, and as you can probably tell, Conan Exiles isn't going to win it. And no stretch am I saying that Conan Exiles is a bad game. But objectively, when you look at everything that goes on with both of these games, Ark Survival Evolved kind of does win it. Gameplay and feeling wise, Ark really makes you feel like you're in a jungle fighting for your life against dinosaurs. That feeling that you have to graft and craft and go on the grind and make yourself better is really apparent. But it's the environmental, it's the dinosaur interactions that you have that really sell that game. Conan Exiles has its own style of atmosphere, but at no point playing Conan Exiles do I feel as lived in that game, as invested in that world as I did when playing Ark for the first time. There's just not enough things going on in Conan Exiles. There's not enough NPCs, there's not enough enemies, and many of the systems that are in place in Conan Exiles will make the game even better, but at the moment, even though it's out of early access, they're not quite there. In the future, Conan Exiles is meant to be implementing all sorts of things like tames, like mounts. You'll be able to have your own baby little creatures running around like jaguars. I've also spoken in the past as well about making the purge system, the NPC attack system, much bigger and better. And even thrall management, almost like a town sim. You'll be able to set your thralls on different markers and they'll patrol your town doing different jobs. Really make it feel like a lived in, base that you've crafted or city that you've built. But it doesn't have that at the moment. Whereas Ark's major systems were all in play by the time it came out of early access. Ark Survival Evolved definitely wins it for that atmosphere, that environment, that feeling that you're playing this game and you're in danger. So for gameplay, for that feeling of being in that game, Ark for me wins it. Both games have their selling points, both definitely are worth your time and investment. A few things though to put in Conan Exiles' favour: it's cheaper to buy no matter what platform you're on. So far, DLC has been free or additions have all been free, and there are no plans for any type of season pass. Ark Survival Evolved famously have a season pass where they still have unreleased content, with delays to pretty much everything they've ever done. Wildcard as a studio aren't necessarily that well thought of. Whereas Funcom's been around the block a little bit more, they've got a little bit more experience in the gaming industry, well in fact they've got a lot of experience in the gaming industry, so they know what they should be doing. Throughout their development, Funcom really learned a lot from Wildcard. They saw the mistakes they made with the community, they saw some of the mistakes they maybe made in overhyping stuff, and they learnt not to do that too much. So going forward though, what can we say about both of these games? Where does their futures lie, and is that going to make an impact on what you're going to be doing buying one of these games now? Or if you're not buying it and you're just simply watching this because you like survival games and you're a fan of me playing Ark or Conan, what is going to be worth your time in the future putting something into? Ark Survival Evolved's final DLC is meant to be out this summer. It's been delayed once already without official confirmation of that, but the time for it to release has already gone unchecked. They've shut down a lot of their core operations and are no longer overhyping stuff and promising things that they will not deliver. In fact, many people assume that once this DLC is out, that is it, Ark is done. They may have a future in an Ark Survival Evolved 2, but that won't be for a number of years. And apart from some rumoured Battle Royale work that the studio is working on, Ark is pretty much running its end of its course. It will carry on being supported on PC, and the modding community around Ark is another aspect that makes Ark a really attractive property if you're on PC. Conan Exiles does have mods as well, but they're just not as robust and they're just not as interesting yet. Of course, Conan Exiles is newer, it hasn't had as much time to develop and it hasn't been in the public eye as much. In the future, they are meant to be bringing in some of these systems, but it's no guarantee. And although they have no season pass, they have previously stated they would be bringing some sort of DLC to the game. However, many people feel that won't be in the form of any new adjustments or changes to the map. It will just be sort of cosmetic items or things you can buy in game. And while they call it DLC, I would actually just call it content updates. Things like having the ability to tame young baby creatures, ride camels and horses, they're things that maybe should just be in the game rather than necessarily be an extra. Funcom is going from strength to strength though. They're working on a multitude of different types of games and lots to do with Conan. Overall, Ark has made a huge, bigger impact than Conan might do or will ever do. Call it a love for dinosaurs more than barbarians. Call it the fact that Ark is just a better game. Or maybe it's just overhyped and that's what's done it. And even though it's a little bit quiet at the moment, Ark Survival Evolved is definitely going to be around for a lot longer than Conan Exiles ever will be. So if that kind of thing matters to you, where a game will go, how it's going to grow, how a company decides to make future games, then Ark is definitely going to have the more interesting things going on. So there you go, that is Ark vs Conan. Rounding up, for impact, Ark wins. For multiplayer, Ark just about wins. For looks and sound, Ark wins. And really, the only thing that Conan does explicitly better than Ark Survival Evolved, without getting into a huge amount of details, is their PvP side of the game. So there you go, in conclusion, Ark wins hands down as the ultimate survival game for you to play like this. Yes, there are lots of other ones on PC, but talking about available on all three platforms, Ark is your go-to game. But Conan Exiles runs a really close second, and I think if you've been playing Ark a while now, definitely Conan Exiles is going to be something you might want to give a try. I'm sure I'm going to get loads of people disagreeing with me, so make sure you keep it clean, but definitely give me your criticisms as long as they're constructive. and give me your feedback whether you agree with me as well. Pop it in the comments section down below and I'll try and reply to as much as I possibly can. I like both games. I at one point really loved Ark. Over a period of time, covering Ark too much has maybe made me a little bit jaded, and when Conan first came out I was hyping it up and I was feeling like this was going to be the game. But Conan set itself a little bit too low. It didn't reach for the stars enough. And while it's competent at what it doesn't really excel or exceed your expectations. So there you go. Ark vs Conan, the clear winner. Ark Survival Evolved. I am Jade Plays Games. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you've liked it. Go and like it right now. Make sure you've got notifications turned on and I'll see you rat bags later.